at CRISIL, we are into credit ratings, and doing credit ratings also helps us to contribute to the infrastructure sector by doing the risk evaluation, and which is something which helps in pricing the products pertaining to the debt in the infrastructure segment as such. So over last several years, we've been rating infrastructure projects. We've been rating developers who are doing as part of the holding companies. We've been rating the construction companies, and we've got a very good understanding with respect to how the risk pans out in the segment per se, and that becomes a very key and critical element when we look at infrastructure financing per se. So to begin with, just to let me give you a broad perspective as to what CRISIL believes will be the infrastructure and the credit requirements, investments and the credit requirements in the infrastructure segment over the next 5 years or so. So at CRISIL, we believe that total investment requirement will be close to around 26 trillion over next 5 years. That's the total investment requirement in the infrastructure sector. If we just do a simple 30-70 debt equity mix kind of a thing with 30% equity and 70% debt, so it translates into something like a 18 trillion kind of a total debt requirement which will be there. So the question comes, how and who will be funding this kind of a debt requirement which will be coming up? Just to break it up, this 18 trillion, we believe that can be funded through banks to a limited extent. I mean, to the extent of something like 8 trillion, if I can say so. And another 2 to 3 trillion can be funded through, let's say, ECBs, because ECBs have also been in the vogue, and government have opened up these ECBs for the infrastructure segment. So something like 2 to 3 trillion can be funded through ECBs. But that alone will not be enough for the funding requirements in the infrastructure sector. So, but post construction also, we have seen that there are a lot of issues with respect to the counterparties which are there. Now, let's say for the power sector, now project is all commissioned, everything, all field linkages are tied up, everything is there. But who is the counterparty? The counterparties here are the DISCOMs. Now, if the DISCOMs are going to be the counterparties, there can be an issue here, because I mean, DISCOMs themselves have not been in a very good of their financial health. While, I mean, having said this, I mean, I'm also aware that in the last couple of years, there is a lot of movement which have happened with respect to the DISCOMs debt getting restructured, they being able to increase their tariffs and reduce the gap in the average cost of supply and average tariff that they are charging. But that's still not enough. I mean, the credit quality is still on a weaker footing. That's not something that can take the credit quality to a level of a AA. That's the AA credit quality is something that is desirable for the bond markets to become active on that front. What we have seen is that various kind of counterparties have come up in a way to reduce that kind of a risk. Something that we have seen in, let's say, the solar sector. There is an entity called Solar Energy Corporation of India, which has a backing of Government of India, which purchases which will be purchasing the solar power and all, and that is something and will take on the credit quality risk. Something in the segment of transmission that we have seen with the point of connect regime coming into play, PGCIL in some ways, which is having a credit quality of a AAA, is trying to reduce that individual credit quality pressures pertaining to the counterparty risks which are pertaining to the DISCOMs or pertaining to the individual buyers which might